As we all know, in male-orientated industries, there is a massive stigma around mental health, talking about it, seeking out help, because that also means talking about it. And a lot of the time when I'm talking to people about how are you rolling out mental health, what does that look like? They're using the same strategy across the whole of the business. Now, this is a fundamental mistake with regards to communicating and breaking down the stigma. Because how we talk to people in the office is going to be completely different to how we talk to people out on site. So if I go into the office and I start talking about, keeping your mind clear and meditating and finding things to inspire you, and generally people in the office are a bit more receptive to that. If I did the same out on site or with a male heavy room, it's not really going to be hitting the nail on the head. They're going to be disengaged, and there'd be clock watching, which is what happens at a lot of pre-starts or toolbox talks, where they're clock watching to get back out on site to get their job done, because they know that if they don't get what they need to get done, then that's going to create even more stress. So you're actually taking up too much of their time. So when we're looking at mental health, we need to look at how are we breaking down the stigma? What are we actually doing with regards to mental health, and how are we communicating it? Are we actually labeling it mental health? Are we going to say, we're going to talk about stress today, or we're going to talk about depression, or we're going to talk about anxiety? I can guarantee you, with my own experience, about 80% of the men that I've spoken to out on site don't truly understand what anxiety, they hear the word, but they don't know what it looks like, what it feels like. And then when I tell them, it's like, oh, well, that's how I feel every day. Okay, that's not normal. We need to work on that. But the biggest thing about breaking down the stigma is, I call it the broccoli effect, is something that is unfamiliar and unknown becoming familiar. So I call it the broccoli effect because when I used to give my kids broccoli at the beginning, they was like, don't want to touch it, don't want to go anywhere near it, certainly don't want to eat it. But the more I put it on their plate and didn't create a fuss and didn't put big flashy lights around it, it became one of my child's favorite foods. So the unknown, the unfamiliar became familiar, and then they stepped closer because it's safe. It's not going to impact on me. So if we sort of take that concept with regards to mental health, when was the last time that you put working at heights in big flashy lights? And like, we're going to be talking about, working from heights and the dangers, and we're going to be talking about slips, trips and falls and the dangers of it, and how we're going to keep you safe. And when was the last time you actually did that? You don't. You talk to them about it in the same tone that you would do about talking to them about anything in general, because it's the norm, it's familiar. Go back 15, 20 years and it wasn't, and it was a different story. And that's sort of where we're at with mental health. We're still sort of putting things in flashy lights, and if you look at it from a psychological point of view, something that they know they're struggling with, something that they know that they are that they can't fix themselves, that they're actually beating themselves up about it because it's something that a man should be able to fix. And then all of a sudden we're drawing a lot of attention to it and put in a spotlight. What do you think that's doing to their self-worth? What do you think that's doing to their shame factor? Sometimes we can actually create more damage than good. So what I want to do in this video is to inspire you into changing the way you are communicating about mental health. Make it contextual. Tell stories about, how it plays in your life, how it shows up, what stress how stress changed an outcome, and what you've learned from it and what you're now doing. Standing up and doing a download of Dr. Google on stress and depression and anxiety. Yes, some guys that are receptive to it will take it on and, yeah, great, mate, this is awesome. But people that are already struggling, you're not actually telling them anything new because they know they're struggling, but they don't know what to do about it because they think they're alone. So by sharing stories, I was really worried about, my finances. I didn't think that I was going to be able to pay, the food bill and the mortgage. And so what I did is I actually phoned up Financial First Aid, and they actually really helped and supported me into managing my money and what I could do and what my options were. So now I've actually got a budget. It's just taken all the stress off of me. And all of a sudden, we're telling a story that they can position themselves in that situation. And now they're going to be a lot more high likely to actually ring up Financial First Aid to sort out their financial issues. Start telling stories, start being contextual, stop putting things in big flashy lights, and make it part of the business process like you would with anything else. The more we can get it around them as it's the norm, the more familiar it will become, and the stigma will start dissolving. But again, communication's key. How you do it out on site is going to be different to how you do it in the office. So look at what types of communication, as well as verbal and visual, you're putting out there. And are you hitting the nail on the head, or do you need to actually tweak something? At the end of the day, you're doing this to make a difference. So I hope this has encouraged you to start looking and being intentional with what you're doing and what you need to consider when you're doing things like this. If you've got any questions, as always, feel free to reach out. I'm more than happy to help. Until the next time, take care and keep it contextual and consistent.